Go ahead, start reading.
Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose weight was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Duran in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, and the treasurers, the counselors, and the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, and the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried aloud to you, it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye shall fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoso falleth down not to worship shall the same hour be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, at the time when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, psalter, and all the music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever.
Live forever.
Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of these instruments and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whosoever falleth not down and worship, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom have
set over the affairs of the province of Babylon.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true?
Is it true?
O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of these instruments which I have made, but if you worship it not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?
Who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hand? Come on, verse 16 says what?
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, who are not careful to answer thee in this matter, if it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known
unto thee, O king,
that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his vigilance was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. And he commanded that the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their horses, and their hats, and the other garments, and they were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire slew the men that they took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 loose running in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire, and the princes, governors, captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose body the fire had no power, nor was any hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trust in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore I will make a decree that every people, nation, and language shall speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut into pieces, and their houses shall be made into dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. The king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. A bad Negro.
Jesus. Hey. Again, there are 4 benefits in this passage concerning holiness that I want to focus on. And it is this, that when one is holy, number 1, God will show up. Somebody shout, God will show up. Number 2, God will bring you out. Number 3, God will get his glory. And number 4, God will promote you. Hayamosanda. Let me wrap this up real quick. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were called by Nebuchadnezzar the king to worship his false god. They said, we're not going to bow down and worship your false god. We have been called by God to be holy. In other words, no room for compromise. The king said, I'll throw you in this fiery furnace, make it 7 times hotter, and destroy you if you don't. They said, well, guess what? You're just going to have to do it. But our God is able to deliver us, and he will. I want you real quick. Look at verse number 24. It says, then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished and rose up in haste. This is after they were thrown into the fiery furnace. And spake and said unto his counselors, did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, true, O king. And he answered and said, lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the 4th, my God, his form is like that of the Son of the living God. Let me ask you, according to the word of God, how many were thrown into the fiery furnace? 3. According to the text, how many did the king see in the fire? He saw 4. Here's the revelation. When you are holy, all your haters, all your naysayers, all your doubters, all of your accusers will see your God show up. Show up in your situation. Show up in your affairs. Show up in your mess. Show up when you're in the fire. God says, when you're holy, I am determined to show up. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, if you're in the fire, I got a word for you. He's going to show up. He's going to show up and bless you. Show up, heal you. Show up and deliver you. If you're holy, he'll show up. If you believe it, give God a shout in this house. Hey, lift up your hands and say, show up, Lord. I'm in some stuff now. Show up. I'm in a fiery situation. Show up. I've got some drama. Show up. I'm in some debt. Show up. I got some haters. I've got some adversaries. I need you to show. Show up, show up, show up, show up. Next, number 2, the next revelation is this. When you're holy, when you're holy like the king, all your enemies will see that nothing that they did to you will hurt you. Oh, you ain't hearing me. He said, I'm going to make sure they see it. They tried to stop you, but I'm going to make sure they see that it didn't work. They're going to see that you got the job anyway. They're going to see that you rose from the ashes anyway. They're going to see that you got the house anyway. They're going to see you got your boo anyway. They're going to see that you got your promotion anyway. When you're holy, God will show up and prepare a table before you in the midst of your enemies and show them that he's your God, and it will work it out for you anyhow. He will show up. Give God a shout in this house. Somebody shout, show up, God. Show up, oh King. Show up, oh Savior. Show up, my rock. Show up. Show up. Show up. Yeah. Number 2, God will not only show up when you're hungry, when you're holy, but he'll also bring you out. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, are you ready for God to bring you out? Bring you out of depression. Bring you out of loneliness. Bring you out of fear. Bring you out of frustration. Bring you out of hard times. When you're holy, God will bring you out. Grab your neighbor by the hand. Shake it like you're about to break it. And say, God will bring you out. He will pull you out. He will get you out. Tell him, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.